microphones. Is this working? Hi, my name is Greg Niemeyer, and I'm here to introduce our third lecture in our amazing lecture series and our very special guest speaker, Professor Lisa Wymore, who's a dance professor. And before that, I had a couple of announcements to make, just because we're also running a course, and we have to get all these things out of the way. So I wanted to know if Lourdes Musina Garcia is here or in the Zoom room. No, okay, fine. I'm going to show some of their work, and nevertheless, and so I just want to acknowledge that in this last session that we were talking about projects we're doing, and the projects were to create a portal, and Lourdes created a portal between Mexico, current day Mexico, and the Mayan Mexico. And those portals were so interesting. And today we're going to talk about movement. And so a portal only becomes active when we move through it. Portal only becomes active when we actually can move through it. So there's a deep connection here between creating a portal and then thinking about movements and using those movements to go through the portal. Anyways, and so one intervention that Lourdes created was this natural pool. Another one was a natural foot crossing bridge made out of bioavailable materials. Bioavailable is a very beautiful term. Bioavailable. And then the third one was to create a park with all these three elements in them. And I just wanted to show this portal between Lacandon and Mestizo culture and art, and Mexican and culture and art, and history, of course, as well. So these are wonderful portals, and a great introduction to our project today of moving through portals. Another portal that we're looking at is Shimon Adi's portal that's happening this Saturday. Again, reminder that the event happens from 6 to 9 p.m. at Minnesota Street Project, and you're all invited to come. They created a special set of seats for students only, and so this is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended and absolutely essential to go out in the world and see art. And as a portal, you can't quite leap through this portal because it's on a barge, and you'd have to swim to get there, but you can leap through it with your mind. And consider Night Watch, which is made by Shimon Adi to reflect on the plight of migrants around the world. With that, I'm going to move on to our guest speaker introduction. Remember, we're on a trajectory here from material to abstraction, and the movement is early on in the material because we're using the material of the body. But it's also quite abstract because sometimes movements don't get done for practical purposes, but for rather communication purposes. And so I'm introducing Professor Lisa Wymore, Professor of Dance, Faculty Director of Arts and Design, which is one of the organizations that makes this kind of lecture series possible, together with Letters and Sciences. And I believe that you got your MFA in dance from the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, and that you're working together with Sheldon B. Smith, who's here as well. And I just want to acknowledge that you discuss often how your movement can cross, bridge, span, or leap across boundaries. I've seen several of your performances where I've seen that happen. It was always very moving to be there in person to witness that. Across boundaries from isolation to community, from the physical to the real, and from the programmed to the spontaneous. So thank you very much for joining us today. Please help me welcome Professor Lisa Wymore.
Hello. Okay, let me just start this. It's not what I wanted. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I've got my glasses on. All right. Welcome. So I'm going to just do a brief introduction about the people here in the room with me today who are going to be showing this work. We're going to be talking about computer augmented choreography, as Greg kind of alluded to, going from the technical into the spontaneous, or the computational into the spontaneous, and that's going to be the focus of today's demonstration. We're going to have dancers here today. Sheldon Smith is here, my collaborator, and we have Eric Lee, James Graham, and Elizabeth Bobnikoff, and they will be dancers demonstrating later. Yeah, thank you. Greg was asking me why, it's so great to have live performance. And I was saying to him, it's almost easier to just show what we do than to try and do it in a PowerPoint slide. But I am just going to contextualize what you're seeing today. Just give a brief kind of contextualizing. So our work, Smith-Weimer Disappearing Acts, has really been inspired by past predecessors, people we're standing on the shoulders of. So this is not new so much in the long sense of people doing this experimentation. And the folks I'm talking about today, there's many more that go back way back in history. But just to say, one group of makers, artists and performers and dancers and choreographers that we're really inspired by was a group that came together for a series of performances called 9 Evenings, Theater and Engineering. And it was in October of 1966. And it was done, these performances were done at the 69th Regiment Armory in Lexington Avenue, New York City. And there were artists and engineers from the Bell Laboratories in New Jersey who collaborated with a whole series of dance artists, including Deborah Hay, Steve Paxton, Yvonne Rainer, and then visual artists Robert Rauschenberg, David Tudor, John Cage was also there. Lucinda Childs is also a choreographer that was part of it. There were about 10 artists and 30 engineers involved in this experiment. Later, this became a larger group called Experiments in Art and Technology, EAT, and they've been very inspiring to both Sheldon and I, and as we've worked with movement and technology engineers and artists coming together in the same room. Other folks that have influenced us, particularly Yvonne Rainer, who did some really phenomenal work with sort of everyday movement and believing that there's a lot of artists of this time and that believed in this, that dance training wasn't so necessary, just everyone's body could move, kind of a democratization of the body, and that scores, and we're doing a score today, you'll see, can bring framing and a way to frame these bodies in motion together in space and time. Another inspiring artist is Ralph Lemon, who's really committed to working in non-traditional stages, incorporating improvisation, daily human gesture, using duration in performance, incorporating technology. And Ralph Lemon does use a lot of, well, Yvonne Rainer too, she's a filmmaker as well. I believe the MPFA shows a lot of her films. But Ralph Lemon also works in film, projection, and what is really inspiring about his work is that he does it in this kind of way that's not super fancy high tech. It's very on human scale and in spaces that might not be highly produced. So very inspiring artist. And then also just some acknowledgements. The score that you're seeing today that Sheldon will talk about later is developed by Mark Caniglio in a program called Isadora. It's an object-oriented program that is useful for dancers, choreographers, performers, theaters use it because it's a great way to do video mapping and bring in sensor technology and other useful tools into the theater space. And then Ian Heisters, who isn't here today, he was one of the co-creators of Zero Return, which is the piece we'll be sharing in the demonstration. He's an incredible intermedia artist. So that just gives a little contextualization of what we do. Yeah, I thought we would, before we get going, and I don't want to talk too long, lead us in an improvisational exercise together, because one thing about dance is it really helps if you yourself have done some movement to connect to what you're seeing. So I'd ask you to close your laptops, put your phones away, and stand up if you want. If standing is difficult for you, you don't choose to, that's fine. I'm just going to lead us in a simple, very, very easy thing. This is not dance with the, technical dancing in any way, but it's an improvisation. What you're going to be seeing today is an improvisational score, meaning it's made up in the moment. And a lot of dance utilizes this, especially when you're making up even phrases that become what we would call set choreography. Improvisation is the root of that. And Greg asked me to share a practice that I do, and so I'm going to share one with you. And also today's work has a lot to do about memory. So what I'm going to have you do is close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and then make sure your feet are planted in the ground. You know, relax your arms, maybe take a little shake out, a little, you know, get it out, get some breath out. And then what I want you to notice is as your eyes are closed, this came from Steve Paxton, also another uh, important figure in the kind of postmodern dance movement. He called this the small dance. And as your eyes are closed, what you're going to notice is that your body weight and your center of gravity has to constantly adjust to the gravitational pull of the earth. So I'm just going to, we'll go about 30 seconds, not a long time here, but just feel the micro movements and adjustments that you make just standing with your eyes closed. Nice. Let your breath come to you. Let yourself exhale. And keeping your eyes closed, I want you to think of your journey to the theater today. How did you get here? You know, you can go all the way back from when you were in your bed to making coffee or you can go from when you closed the door and walked here, or got in a car or on your bike. But just see yourself getting ready, see yourself getting here. How did you get here today? And as you do that, allow your body to make any kind of movement or gesture, even if it's the tiniest thing. Maybe you pantomime with your hands what you did. There's no right way to do this, but what comes to you as your eyes are closed? What kind of gesture comes to you? You can let whatever information come out. Good. So what I'm going to have you do now, you can open your eyes if you want. Keep them closed. Try and remember what you just did. Maybe it was a simple, maybe it was this. It can be really small, or you wiggled your fingers. And I think Greg gave an exercise of like expanding the gesture, or maybe you'll have it soon. Okay, so now, so I did this. So now I'm going to just make it bigger. So go ahead and do that. Make whatever you did or series bigger. Or if I did my fingers, maybe I'll just wiggle them bigger. And yeah, great. So as you're doing that, can you add on another one spontaneously? So go back to your big gesture and then add on one more. Don't judge, just do a movement out of it. Just like whatever comes. It could be, step or whatever. Okay? And go back to the beginning. Okay? Do your 1, 2, or 3, or 1 or 2. Here we go. And add one more. Okay, so you should have 3 or 4. Okay, practice those. Go. Okay, now turn to someone next to you or a threesome and share your series of gestures. If you don't know their name, you can get their name. It doesn't matter if your gestures are small. Okay, great. Okay, what we're gonna do next is everybody have them and you've shared them and you've by talking about them to someone, you solidify them, right? Does that, kind of got more deep into your brain? So what we're going to do is a little performance without speaking. This half of the room, you don't have to move from where you are, but this half, you're going to watch this half do their gestures all together. This half so turn if you can, orientate yourself to the audience over here. Okay. Are you guys ready? We're going to start just in a moment of silence. And let's have you repeat your 3 or 4 gestures 3 times. Okay. So you're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to call this 0. You'll see in our improv. You're going to go back to 0. And then you're going to do your 3. And I'll do this. I'll do mine over here too, to join you. Okay. Are you guys ready? We're going to start in silence. Stillness is really good practice. Go. And end in silence when you're done. All right, give them a big round of applause. All right, this side, let's watch over here. Give them your attention. And start in silence. Be here with each other and go. And end in silence when you're done. All right, give them a round of applause. Nice job. All right. So that will come back to you. It's great to have that bodily memory because we're going to show 0 return now. So if I can have the dancers come up. And can you guys too, I'll pass the mic, just maybe say your name one more time and just a little bit about yourself would be great. So why don't you guys come up? And I'm just going to put this slide back up. Okay. And come out to this.
Hi, my name's James Graham. What do? I teach at UC Berkeley in the Department of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies, and I'm also an alum.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bobrovnikov. I'm also an alum, and I took James' class, so you should all take James' class. And now I work in market research.
My name is Eric Lee. I'm also alum. I also teach in the dance department with James. I have also danced with both of these amazing people in different iterations, and I'm thankful to be here with Lisa Wymore because I have also collaborated with them as well.
Great. Okay, so I'm not going to say much. You're just going to watch, and then Sheldon will describe a little bit later what's going on. This is a computer augmented performance. I'll say that much. And let's begin.
Zero. Return. Go. Return. Go. Return. Go. Continue.
Very stressed, and even with that, but not.
0.
By contrast, the open mode is relaxed.
Return. Go.
By contrast, the open mode is relaxed, expansive, less purposeful, in which we're
Continue.
contemplative, more inclined to humor, which always accompanies the wider perspective, and consequently more playful. It's a mood in which curiosity for its own sake, because we're not under pressure to get a specific thing done quickly. We can play, and that is what allows natural creativity. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. When Alexander Fleming had the thought that led to the discovery of penicillin, he must have been in the open mode. The previous day, he'd arranged a number of dishes so that culture would grow upon them. On the day in question, he glanced at the dishes and he discovered that on one of them, no culture had appeared. Now, if he'd been in the closed mode, he would have been so focused upon his need for dishes with cultures grown upon them that when he saw that one dish was of no use to him for that purpose, he would quite simply have thrown it away. Thank goodness he was in the open mode, so he became curious about why the culture had not grown
0.
this particular dish. And that curiosity, as the world knows, led him to the night path. I'm sorry.
Return. Go.
On this particular dish. And that curiosity, as the world knows, led him to the night path.
Return. Go.
On this particular dish. And that curiosity, as the world knows, led him to the night path.
Return. Go.
On this particular dish. And that curiosity, as the world knows, led him to the night path. I'm sorry, to penicillin. Now, in the
Continue. Zero. Return. Go. Continue. 0. Return. Go. Return. Go. Return. Go. Return. Go. Return. Go. Continue. Zero. Return. Go. Continue.
Thanks, dancers. So this is the zero return score. It's an improvisational score where the computer is continuously but randomly asking them to remember what they're doing, go back to the beginning of where they were asked to remember what they were doing, and try to play that back with, I mean, the computer is not asking them necessarily anything other than to just pay attention to where they are when it says zero, where to go back to when it says return. When it says go, they need to start playing that back. And sometimes they have to keep adding on. They never know how long the loop is going to be. And when it says continue, they just keep going and then start creating new things from scratch. We've done this score in many different configurations, in many different circumstances. Originally, this little score was actually inside of another piece that was an hour-long piece that Lisa and I created several years ago now, but we liked this particular section so much that we sort of extracted it and then just allow it to be its own thing. It, you know, as a dance or as something that you see on a stage or in a theater, it, you know, maybe defies your expectations of a narrative arc or any sort of arc that has a beginning and a middle of it and an end. It is just kind of an ongoing thing. And as such, you know, it could be any length. We've performed it, I don't remember the long, I think we've had aspirations of performing it for, you know, several hours at a time, but I think the furthest we've ever gotten was maybe 45-minute performances. And it's really interesting to see what happens as you start to get further into it and into the kind of zone of it, and the exhaustion of it too. It starts to kind of transform itself for the performers. But it's also, I think it's an interesting thing to think about, the difference between what the performers are experiencing, because it's actually quite fun for the performers. It's on some level, it's also, I suppose, exhausting and terrifying and whatever, but there's a game happening for the performers. And there's a fun thing about that game. How fun it is for you as an audience member, I would imagine we're having somewhat different experiences in some way, because you're observing. It's like, I often worry as we made this that it would be a little bit too much like just inviting people over for game night, but then asking them to all just stand around and watch other people play the game. It just might not be as fun as actually being involved. And yet we are asking you as an audience member, it may not be so much about the game for you as it is to experience seeing this group of people deal with creativity in the moment. We're very used to creativity as something we see the result of. In this case, we're seeing the actual performance of the creative act, as well as the sort of creative result in a way. So it's all of that stuff woven together. Would it be helpful to show any of this thing on the screen, or do you want to?
I think it'd be really, you know, when Greg asked me to ask us to come and do this talk, and I invited Sheldon to come because he's so integral to the collaborative work we do with our company. You know, he wanted us to share about creative process, and so over the years, creating with the computer has been our process. And wanting the impetus for this dance was to see if the computer could become a co-collaborator with us. And so I just wanted to bring that up as a way in which a lot of artists are working today. Not all artists work with technology, but there's a big group of people that do it. And there's a smaller group that actually are interested in programming systems to engage with. And so I was just curious if maybe we can take a minute to get people's response to seeing what you just saw. And then we thought we would move into opening up, doing the score again after you've seen it and we've shared a little bit about it, and do a shorter version, and watch the dancers do it one more time now that we've kind of showed that more. And I think it would be interesting if you shared your program, just so you guys can see what Sheldon's built, what we've built in Isadora. So we're going to try and unplug. So this is a great program. You can test Isadora with a beta version for free. You can't save anything, but it's a great way. Okay, there we go.
So I make a lot of our, stuff deals with technology, and what does that mean? Means a lot of different things, but it means I spend a lot of time building stuff inside of software that controls media in different ways. We've done a lot of things, fairly conventional things with like video backgrounds and whatever, but we've also done interactive things where the body moves through space, and how the body moves through space interacts with the technology and causes it to do things. But in this case, it's really just the technology itself telling us what to do. It's not interacting with the dancers, it's just its own engine that runs in somewhat random ways. And this is kind of a mess of stuff, and I'm not expecting you all to understand it or learn it. And I build these things at a speed at which, once I'm done, I have no idea what it does. I mean, I know what it. I know what it does. Can no longer remember how it does what it does. But inside, like, all of these things are all more boxes filled with more stuff, and it's all nested inside of itself, and so on and so on. But essentially, what's happening is that the computer is just has random intervals of when it goes into a loop, how long that loop is going to be, how many times that loop will happen before it exits that loop, and then just kind of sits around waiting for another loop to happen. And then there's another side to this where the computer can also invite the performers in and out while it's happening. That's just not integrated into this particular version. So in some respects, it's relatively simple, but I'm not really a programmer. Well, I mean, I guess I am, but I'm not a particularly good one. I do it all intuitively, which means I spend a lot of time just figuring out how to do some of the simplest things sometimes, and I think I do it probably in the most complicated way possible, until I find that there's actually a device that'll do the exact same thing that I spent like 8 hours trying to figure out, and it's just like one little thing, and it just goes back and forth. But so we got really interested in this idea. We've made a number of pieces before this one, investigating this idea of having an interaction with the computer such that the computer is telling us what to do in live performance, so that we have to respond in real time to information that's coming at us. So we've had things where the computer would project, actually behind the audience would project images so that we know what's going on, even though the audience might not be able to see those images. It's sort of giving us instructions or things to read out loud and so on. I'm just about always fascinated with what it's like to be a human being inside of this technological apparatus, and what that does to us, for us, all that stuff.
How we engage with our technologies, we all know, it's just so we're all carrying phones around and are plugged in all the time, and we've been curious about how that interaction shapes us as humans, and so that's been a motivation for the work. And so creating this piece was a way to really feel and the agency of the computer mixing with our own human agency. And so maybe we could have the dancers talk. You guys want to come up for a second and just share what it's like to be told what that kind of score feels like? And also, just to reiterate, what they were doing was totally improvised. So none of that is choreographed, and they actually have not all three danced or done this score together. So I wanted to share that initial exercise with you, just to show that improvisation is so key to our creative process, and the playfulness that improvisation can foster in a creative process. It's been so useful over time. So can you guys share what it's like to do that score?
Yeah, I think when I'm doing kind of task-oriented movement, I have to tell myself to not be stuck in just a mechanical way of moving. So I often am pushing for something that is more fluid, something that feels more intuitive so that I'm not trying to mirror some of this very like mechanical, straightforward, very specific technology. So in my mind, that's what I'm processing. And then sometimes it gets interrupted by an information that I need to hold on to. So 0 becomes that thing that I have to then reorganize in my mind to, okay, continue to find the same rhythm, continue to be in the same vein of which I was moving, but just kind of capture photographically inside my mind what I just did. And then also open my eyes and open up myself to the space and who I'm moving with so that I don't get stuck in particularly what I'm doing and what I'm trying to process, but still be present with other people, which I think is a larger commentary on how we interact with technology in general.
Yeah. So holding so many things at play, the presence of the dancers, the trying to maintain a fluidity and connection to your own human experience, and then attending to the computer.
There are many aspects to it, and I think the game and the playfulness let me off the hook as a mover, that any and everything I do is correct. So it's not about what I'm doing or how I look. So in that sense, it is very freeing. And another aspect that's interesting to me is it is a co-collaborator, and yet it could be playing and there's no dancers. It doesn't know, it doesn't care in a way. And when that is butting against my human reality, like return, and I'm like, or 0, and like I can't freeze. I can't do things that are through movement or are kinetic or have momentum. I can't literally freeze that. So then it becomes this interesting, how do I solve the problem? Or like I find something new in it. So I find it to be stimulating in that way too.
Do you feel the coldness, Elizabeth? Do you feel the coldness of the machine, or does it not register yet? Because she's only done this one time.
Yes, but also no. I feel like the neutrality of it, and then I feel like after you sink into it after a while, there will be moments of like complete annoyance where we're like, I can't believe I have to return here, and the computer has no way of reading that. So I can't say it's cold. I feel like it's pretty neutral because it just doesn't know. Unless you build something else into it, which I think would be a fun puzzle for Sheldon.
Yeah. And that comes into play, who programs it impacts how it works, which I think is a good thing to remember in our current day and age, because we forget that people made these programs that are guiding and controlling our lives right now. People did them and built in their own bias, aesthetic, and things into that. So that's another thing that came into play with this was it's always iterative with the human into the machine and the machine back to the human, that loop. Thank you. Maybe what we'll do is there any questions coming forward from you all so far about what you've seen? Or just responses like, wow, that was weird to me, or I responded to that in an interesting way, or I zoned out for a while and then I came back when the music changed. Anything. I'm curious. We're curious to hear your thoughts. We have one in the back.
Yes, thank you. Let's do that. But first, let's give you all a round of applause again for this wonderful presentation.
I think a mic is coming your way.
So anybody have a question, please raise your hand. But I'm going to start with you have one right there. So why don't you go start? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, so besides just like 0 and return, there were other speech in the music. Is that all computer augmented? Like, does the computer decide when that happens and like what they say, or is that programmed in and is like a regular, like a constant?
Yeah, so sometimes I've built it so that the computer would control all of the underlying sound choices. In this case, you can see sort of a list of sound things over there on your right. And I was actually selecting which ones were playing. And one that I just kind of randomly ran across for something else I was doing, and it just happened to be on my computer, was John Cleese talking about creativity, and it's sort of fun to play with. And it's not something we'd really done in the score before, of actually having someone talking and then repeating themselves in that loop. I found that kind of fascinating, because what happens to us as we hear language repeated, I mean, regular word language repeated over and over again. And it's kind of an interesting YouTube video about creativity if you're ever interested in that.
Yeah, he was talking about playfulness. I kept hearing that over and over, that being in that open mindset of exploration, which is exactly what they're doing. And the practice of improvisation, going back to Greg's prompt again, what do I use in my creative process or in our creative process? Improvisation is so key for that, because it's really, it's allowing us to tune into our creative, playful spirits, our souls, our bodies, that that even if you don't do this, I mean, this could not be a performance, it could just be a practice too. We could tweak it and cultivate it into some, we've done that in the past where we have different projections or different music, and kind of push it into a performance mode. And we're obviously performing it for you too, but we're demonstrating it. But it can be just a practice where you could, in the future, we could build these systems, or a system like this. And we've talked about building an app where you could plug in different music and different parameters and timings, and do a practice with your computer as your collaborator, provoking you into a kind of a creative mindset. So anyway, that's another thing that comes into this a little bit too.
Thank you.
So I have a question, if I may, and then we'll go back to the back. And my question would be for the dancers. Did the system require you to hedge your improvisation a little bit? Did you think, oh, I have to do something that I have to remember how to do at any point going forward, because you never know how much you have to add or you have to go back again. So I was curious if that meant that you had to hedge or somehow modify your performance. They got a mic, yeah.
Well, I can go. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about improvisation, we talk about how like limitations kind of expand your creative potential. So in that sense, no. But from a practical sense, I don't have the memory to be able to remember like 7 minutes of, continuous movement that I'm continuously inventing. But there was never a time today that there was a long enough loop to build something like that. So
Right now, those loops are set only to be somewhere between like 2 seconds and 8 seconds, but we could set the loops to be longer. But yeah, whenever we've tried it, there is a limitation where you just becomes really challenging to actually remember anything.
It was interesting though, that question, because I was giving this presentation of Zero Return to Leonardo. They have these talks, these laser talks, and I was talking to a group, and somebody brought up that it would be an interesting kind of exercise for memory care, or using movement or tasks, and then interacting with the computer in a way that helps you, because it does do something. I know it was a short little thing I had to do at the very beginning, but just even thinking back how you got here and letting that come into your body, there's all kinds of neuroplasticity and changes going on in our brains when we do that. We create patterns and we create new pathways in our neural networks. And if you practice your memory, it increases, it improves. So there's something about memory. I know we got off track, but there's something about the anticipating that you have to remember does something for sure. And then the actual doing of the memory is another thing too.
Yeah, for me, to answer your question was yes, because I found myself establishing a relationship with either one of them or all of us, and then having to continue that relationship even when I felt like it's already established was strange. Or wanting to continue to develop a relationship with how I'm moving with one of them, but I can't because I have to keep going back to zero. So those moments did happen for me, for sure.
That's so interesting. There was also a moment where you could see that you were knowing things together. You know, you said co-presence, and but you were memorizing the situation together, and surely where you all stand helps you remember where you stood, and so you don't only remember your position but everybody else's.
Context.
I know there's other questions, but it brings me back to one quick question I want to ask the creators about where the idea came from, because for me, I don't know if anybody else noticed this. This was basically a embodiment of an universal Turing machine where the dancers were the tape, and the head that reads the tape was going back and forth, and so it's going back to 1936 into the very original conception of computers. And so, on the other hand, in business, we talk about sometimes how terms have different meanings in different disciplines. Zero return is a very bad thing, means that you invested something and you got zero return. And so not good, right? But in computers, it's very important that you have to go back to a certain point in the tape. So where did the idea actually come from? And how did it become important to you to dramatize the idea?
Well, I think we probably each have different ideas. I mean, I was reading a lot of Catherine Hale's and the work on emergence, and that really influenced my thinking at the time when we created this piece. That the Escher's hands, what changes the behavior, the computer changing the human's behavior, and the human changing the computer's behavior. That type of emergent idea was really influential for me at the time. I'm still really curious about that. But Sheldon, do you want to say? I mean, it came out of that space opera we were creating.
Yeah, but it relates back to things that we've done in many different versions and iterations in different ways over time, and goes, I mean, for me, it goes all the way back to working on tape loops, of creating things where you're recording on magnetic tape and literally taping the ends of that thing together so it becomes a loop that can just play on its own continuously, or you could record onto that loop. We're very used to looping as a sort of musical practice, because you can just buy these looping boxes and play your guitar into it and press the thing and it'll just start immediately play back what you just did. And so part of it was just a curiosity about translating some of my curiosity about music into this particular practice, but then also finding ways to, and I've been very interested in randomness, chance, really for 40 years. And so that also plays into it.
Yeah, that influence of those 9 evenings in Cage, and a lot of the folks in that time in the 60s that were really exploring a lot with randomness was a big theme. And then Ian Heisters, who helped develop the original score, was very interested in neural nets and artificial intelligence, and what would happen if we really allowed ourselves to if the machine could learn how to choreograph. Was one of the driving forces of the piece originally.
Okay, thank you. Let's take another question here and there. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. I'm not very familiar with the world of like improvisational dance, and so I thought that was very interesting. And then also the fact that what you were listening to didn't really have, or a lot of times it didn't have a beat, but you were still moving. And then
Point.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Good point. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Go on.
And so I'm wondering, like, what is going on in your brain that produces these movements, and like, how do you? And also, what you brought up before is that, like, sometimes I saw that some of you, like, at some point, both of you were like putting your hands up or something, and it looked like you were communicating. About obviously you were using no words, and so one of my questions is like, how do you dance without a beat? Like, how do you go about doing that, and how do you communicate with each other on stage?
Questions. Eric, do you want to take a stab at that?
For me, it's so I grew up dancing to music a lot, and so when I've in my more recently, like probably within the past, I want to say like 7 years, I've been very interested in dancing in silence. And I remember the first time that I had to do that, I completely was like, oh wait, how do I do that? Like, what does that mean? What do I have to do for myself to find something that feels rhythmic or not rhythmic without an outside influence? So for me, it was about finding some kind of rhythm within myself, which, started very practically, but then I like to apply that to my existential plight of like, how do I find this internal rhythm? How do I find these things within myself that allow me to continue to do something without having external influence? So sometimes I hear music that no one else is hearing, or I think about a favorite song. Oftentimes, more recently, I think about a concept rather than sound or music. And from that concept, I start moving, and then the rhythm or lack thereof develops from there.
I invite you all, friends, to sign up for a class in the Department of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies, and we will explore that with you. It's
Yes.
very eye-opening. There's
Well,
many ways to do
One thing
that.
you can do is stand up for a second. Stand up. Try it. Here we go. We're movers, so I'm going to get you out of your chairs. Because again, dancers, choreographers, our knowledge is movement, okay, oriented. So close your eyes and put in your mind a memory of a song and dance to it, to a beat. Let's say the music has a beat. Go. Just go. Okay. See, you all have it, right? You all have memory. Adrian Freed from the Center for New Musicality Technologies, he says that being like on rhythm, everyone has their own, even with a metronome, everyone's slightly different, right? We all have like a beat within that we carry, different beats, different rhythms, different energies. Yeah? So try it again. Try another beat. Maybe it's faster. I don't know, or slower. Yeah? Give yourself a minute. Feel into that. And the other thing about that I really believe in, thank you, good. Thank you. Give yourself a round of applause for dancing with each other today. And you can sit down if you want. Is that, you don't have to be a dancer to know that you're an embodied being in the world. And there's a lot of work done in psychology with microfacial gestures even that this is why the Zoom calls are so hard, because they're compressing and sending the data in packets at different rates, and so that it looks like we're all together, but we're so used to, as humans, reading each other's bodies in real spaces that it can be very alienating over the Zoom. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you.
I think it's the first time that you asked a question and the answer was given by dancing, but not only by dancing by the person asked us a question, but also by everybody else dancing together. So that was really nice. I remember that. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead. You're going to get a microphone for.
So I guess this is maybe a question more for Sheldon, but I'm just thinking, like, I think a lot of artists and a lot of dance especially seeks to escape technology. Technology is something that we are so bound to, and exactly as your piece says, like, we are dictated by technology continuously, which is why I think a lot of artists seek to escape from that. Why do you think there is value in art, namely dance, that is still tied intrinsically to technology? Like, why should we not try to escape that?
I think that's a really good and really important question, and I think kind of goes right to the heart of why we do like to investigate technology and dance. As a dance is a great place to investigate, even though the research might not lead us to absolute, pure, clear, like clinical, written observations on a physical level that allows us to understand some things about our relationship to technology that I think are really important, and things that we can then say through our artwork that hopefully other people can then have some understanding of as well by encountering that artwork. But I think within your question also, is why would we want to, if we're so much of our body, why would we want to introduce this other thing into those spaces? And believe me, a lot of times we don't. I encourage my students, even in my dance and technology courses, I teach at Mills, I encourage them to get away from the technology all the time. I think it's really, really important. And we're pretty careful about it too.
But I would also say that dance has always been involved in technology, from having just illuminated fires and shadow puppetry and candles and our stages have all been forms of technology. And so, you know, Loie Fuller was one of the first, she really pioneered lighting design on the modern stage, and she was a modern dancer. And there's myriad of other artists and people, especially dancers, who have really pushed technology. I think my interest, you know, it's a good question, but sometimes art really shouldn't be about escaping. It should be, you know, there's so many things that art does, but one of them it does is it provokes and it changes, and it maybe can promote healing with these systems, you know, or if the bodies had been more in our communities moving together, had been more considered in our current technologies, maybe we wouldn't be sitting in you know, doing this. You know, I don't know. We built something that makes us do this. So can we make something different bodily? And so how do you do that? You have to invite people who consider and care about embodiment to be part of the designing process. So that's something that motivates me. One more question, and then I think we're going to run the system again. But
Let me thank you for doing an amazing performance. And you have one more thing that you wanted to do?
we wanted to run it again. Let's see what's our time. We have a few more minutes, right?
You can do a little more, yeah.
We wanted to run it again and see if there's any volunteers that want to join our trio. You have to come down the ramp, and who want to come join us.
Yes,
You don't have
let's
to
do
be a
it. Come on,
dancer,
don't
but
be
you.
shy.
Does anybody else want to try it?
Come on down. You don't have to
All right,
raise your
come
hands.
on
Yeah.
down. Use the
Yeah.
ramp though. Use the ramp.
Yeah.
I want you to use the ramp. So we have some folks in the audience who want to come, and then we're going to run it for. Can we do 5 more minutes? We'll do 5 more minutes.
Yeah, let's see it. Yeah.
And then we'll come to a close. Yeah, you need to plug in. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Great. Welcome. And can you guys just share? We have the mic. Share your names real quick. Hello. I know you two.
Hello, my name is Verena.
I'm Joyce. All right. Current dance students in the dance program. All right. So do you need a referral, kind of an update? So when the computer says 0, you're moving, and the computer's going to say 0. In fact, why doesn't everybody try this? Everybody start moving your arms around. And when the computer says, I'll say 0, so I'll say 0, start remembering when I say 0. Okay, so let's do that again. You're moving, but don't stop when I say 0. I say 0, and then I say return, and try and go back to where you were when I said 0. Then you have to wait here until it says go. Go. Return. Oh, didn't I hear 0? Okay, let's go again. I'll say 0, then we'll say return, and then I'll say go. Okay, you guys ready? So just begin. You're improvising. I don't know. You're just letting movement come out of your hands. Don't judge what that is. It just is. 0. Keep moving, because until I say return, you go back. Return. Okay? And go. Return. Go. Return. Go. Continue means then you start doing something else. Okay, that's the general score. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well enough? It's hard to kind of explain in words. So 0, you don't stop. You try and put a little, like a tag you would, you know, and like a highlight. It's like save for a moment. And then you keep going until you hear return. And then so that's your segment. 0 to return means that's the segment you have to remember. And then you keep doing it in the loop until until the computer says continue. All right, let's give it a go. All right, thank you, volunteers. You can come in and out anytime you want. There we go. So we're just doing this as a practice. Don't worry, I know it's a perform because people in front of us, but think of it as just a practice in creativity. Here we go.
Zero. Return. Go. Return. Go. Continue.
One to change the bulb, and four to sing about how much better the old one was. How many it's a clue. Now, one more example. One of Alfred Hitchcock's regular co-writers has described working with him on screenplays. He says, when we came up against a block and our discussions became very heated and intense, Hitchcock would suddenly stop and tell a story that had nothing to do with the work at hand. At first, I was almost outraged. And then I discovered that he did this intentionally. He mistrusted working under pressure. He would say, we're pressing. We're working too hard. Relax, it will come. And
Return. Go.
Working under pressure. He would say, we're pressing. We're working too
Return.
hard.
Go.
Working under pressure. He would say, we're pressing. We're working too hard. Relax, it will come. And, says the writer,
Continue.
it finally always did. But, let me make one thing quite clear. We need to be in the open mode when we're pondering the problem. But, once we come up with a solution, we must then switch to the closed mode to implement it. Because once we've made a decision, we are efficient only if we go through with it decisively, undistracted by doubts about its correct. For example, if you decide to leap a ravine, the moment just before takeoff is a bad time to start reviewing alternative strategy. When you're attacking a machine gun post, you should not make a particular effort to see the funny side of what you're doing. Humor is a natural concomitant of the open mode, but it's a luxury of the closed mode. No, once we've taken it,
Zero.
we should narrow our focus.
Return. Go.
We should narrow our focus while we're implementing. And then after it's been carried out, we should once again switch back to
Continue.
open mode to review the feedback arising from our action in order to decide whether the course that we have taken is successful or whether we should continue with the next stage of our plan.
Finish.
Yay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Verena and Joyce. Yeah, thank you, Greg, for inviting us to do this and share with your class. And yeah.
Thanks so much, Lisa and Sheldon, for coming and bringing your amazing group along and sharing your program and your thoughts with us. And we'll see you all again on Tuesday, where we will actually present our videos of kind of a call and response. And
Great.
maybe we'll share those with you as well
Yes, that'd be
on V courses.
wonderful.
So maybe you can get some feedback from Lisa directly.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
encourage you to dance today and improvise and open up let your open mindset and growth mindset really, cultivate inside of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause again.